It's scary how one old message can destroy all the healing you thought you had. Because, at 2 a.m., I opened our old chats for just 1 minute. And suddenly, I was crying over a version of us that doesn't even exist anymore. It's 2 a.m. And somehow, out of all the things I should have been doing, I opened our old chats again. I told myself I'd just read one message, just one. But then I kept scrolling. Back to the days when your name on my screen felt like home. Back to the nights when we talked until sunrise, when goodnight took an hour because neither of us wanted to leave. And tonight, sitting alone in the dark, I realized something painful. You can delete photos, you can hide memories, you can pretend you've moved on, but old messages, they bring back the version of someone who once loved you with their whole heart. And, as I read your words again, AB broke down, not because I still wanted to fight, but because for a moment, it felt like I had you back. It was 2 a.m., the kind of silence that feels heavy, not peaceful, not calming, just heavy. The room was dark except for the pale light from my phone screen resting against my face. I couldn't sleep again. Lately, sleep only comes when exhaustion wins, not when peace arrives. So I did what I promised myself I wouldn't do anymore. I opened our old chats. You know what's strange? Sometimes we don't miss people immediately after they leave. Sometimes the real pain waits. It hides in small moments, in random nights, in lonely hours when the world is asleep and your heart finally stops pretending it's okay. I scrolled all the way up, past the dry conversations, past the misunderstandings, past the silence that slowly replaced us. I went back to the beginning, back to when your messages felt like the best part of my day. I found the first good morning you ever sent me. It was simple, just a few words. But back then, those few words changed my entire mood. I remember smiling at my screen like an idiot. I remember rereading it 3 times before replying because I didn't want to sound too excited. Funny how the smallest things become sacred memories later. I kept scrolling. There were screenshots you sent me of random things that made you laugh. Voice notes where you sounded half asleep. Long paragraphs where you told me about your fears, your dreams, your childhood memories. There were moments where we stayed awake until sunrise talking about absolutely nothing. Yet somehow it felt like everything, and for a few seconds, while reading all of it again, I forgot that you're gone. That's the dangerous thing about memories. They don't warn you before pulling you under. 1 minute you're just checking old messages. The next minute you're reliving an entire love story. Alone. I read the part where you told me you felt safe with me. That line destroyed me. Because I remember how serious I took those words. I remember silently promising myself that no matter what happened in life, I would protect your heart carefully. I wanted to become peace for you. I wanted to become the person you could run to when the world became too loud. And maybe that's why losing you hurt the way it did, because I wasn't pretending with you. Everything I felt was real. Every late-night conversation, every compliment, every reassurance, every, I miss you. Every I love you. Real. People think heartbreak happens all at once, like something dramatic, like a loud goodbye or a slammed door. But honestly, sometimes heartbreak happens slowly, quietly, one unread message at a time, one colder reply at a time, one distant conversation at a time, until suddenly the person who once couldn't sleep without talking to you becomes a stranger. I found the messages from the nights we fought too, and even those hurt differently now. Because back then, even in anger, there was love hiding underneath every word. We still cared enough to explain ourselves, we still fought to be understood, we still believed the relationship could survive. But toward the end, the conversations became colder, replies became shorter, silence became normal. You stopped telling me about your day, stopped sending random photos, stopped calling me when something exciting happened, and I noticed all of it. I just never said it out loud because I was scared that if I admitted things were changing, then they'd become real. So, instead, I stayed quiet. I pretended not to notice the distance growing between us. But at 2 a.m., reading everything again, I realized something painful. Love doesn't always die loudly. Sometimes it dies in delayed replies, in changed energy, in conversations that start feeling forced, in moments where someone slowly stops choosing you. And the worst part? You can literally see the exact moment it started happening when you reread old chats. You can feel the warmth, disappearing line by line. That's what broke me tonight, not just losing you, but watching the evidence of it happen right in front of me all over again. I kept scrolling anyway. Maybe because pain becomes addictive when it's connected to someone you love deeply, I found the messages where we planned our future. God. Those hurt the most. We talked about places we wanted to visit together, tiny apartments we'd decorate together. Dumb arguments about what color the walls should be. You once told me you wanted peaceful mornings with me someday. Coffee, rain outside, quiet music playing while life slowed down around us, and I believed every word. That's the thing nobody talks about. When someone leaves, they don't just take themselves away, they take the future you imagined with them too. Suddenly all those little dreams have nowhere to go. I sat there staring at the screen thinking about how strange human beings are. We can become emotionally attached to pixels, to notifications, to words typed at 3 a.m. by someone lying in another room somewhere in the world, yet somehow those words can mean more than reality itself. Your texts once healed me, tonight they destroyed me. I reached the part where you used to send paragraphs when you missed me. You sounded so certain about us back then, so sincere, and maybe that's why it's hard to hate you, because I know, the love was real once. People love talking about fake love after breakups, but, honestly, I think what hurts more is knowing it was genuine once, and still ended anyway. Because then you start questioning everything. How can two people love each other deeply, and still fall apart? How do strangers become soulmates? And soulmates become strangers again? I wish I knew, I really do. There's one message I kept rereading tonight. You wrote, I don't think I could ever stop loving you, and maybe you meant it when you said it, maybe forever just ended sooner than we expected. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I looked at the date beside them and realized how much time has passed since we were that version of ourselves. That realization crushed me, because sometimes the people we miss most don't even exist anymore. The version of you I loved is trapped inside old conversations now, inside memories, inside screenshots, inside moments that no longer breathe. And maybe that's why I couldn't stop crying tonight. I wasn't just mourning the relationship, I was mourning who we used to be. I miss laughing with you, I miss feeling important to someone. I miss seeing your name appear on my screen, and instantly feeling lighter. I miss how naturally we understood each other before life complicated everything. And, maybe that sounds pathetic. Maybe reading old chats at 2 a.m. sounds weak to some people. But love makes people do soft things. It makes people revisit pain just to feel close to someone again for a few minutes. That's what I was doing tonight, trying to feel close to you again. Even, if only through old words. I remember one night you stayed awake just because I was having a bad day. You kept reassuring me over and over again until I finally calmed down. You told me I deserved gentleness. You told me I didn't have to carry everything alone anymore. Do you know how dangerous it is to hear that when you've spent your whole life feeling emotionally alone? You became home to parts of me I never showed anyone else. And when you left, those parts had nowhere to go. That's why healing hasn't been simple, because losing you wasn't just losing a person, it was losing comfort, routine, safety, connection. I still catch myself wanting to send you things sometimes, songs, memes, late-night thoughts. Then I remember we don't talk anymore. And the silence after that realization feels unbearable every single time. People say, move on, like it's a straight road, like you wake up one morning magically healed, but grief is weird. Some days I'm okay, some days I laugh genuinely, some days I feel hopeful again, then nights like this happen. Nights where one old message completely destroys all the progress I thought I made, and suddenly, I'm sitting in darkness rereading conversations from months ago, with tears running down my face like none of this ever ended. The hardest part wasn't losing you, it was realizing how much of me still lives inside those old chats. I didn't understand that at first. When we stopped talking, I thought the pain would come from your absence alone. I thought missing your voice, your attention, your love, that would be the thing destroying me every night, but I was wrong. What really shattered me was discovering that pieces of who I used to be only existed when I was with you, and now those pieces feel trapped in conversations I reread at 2 a.m. like someone searching through ruins of a life they can't rebuild. You know what hurts the most? I sound happier in those chats. Lighter, softer. More alive. There's a version of me in those messages that I barely recognize anymore. A version that laughed easily. A version that believed in forever. A version that didn't overthink every feeling because he trusted the person on the other side of the screen. That version of me loved deeply without fear. And sometimes I scroll through our conversations wondering where that person went after you left. I read the way I used to text you, the excitement, the effort, the warmth in every sentence. Even my bad days felt easier because I knew I could talk to you about them. I knew that no matter how heavy life became, there would be a notification from you waiting somewhere in the middle of my chaos. Do you understand how rare that feeling is? To feel emotionally safe with someone. To know there's one person in the world you can be completely unfiltered with? That's what I lost. Not just a relationship, a safe place. And ever since you've been gone, life has felt emotionally louder. I didn't realize how much peace your presence gave me until silence replaced it. Tonight I reread the messages from the nights when we couldn't stop talking to each other. Hours and hours of conversations that seemed endless back then. We talked about everything, childhood memories, future plans, deep fears we never told anyone else. The kind of conversations that make two strangers slowly become emotionally inseparable. And somewhere in the middle of scrolling, I realized something painful. I gave you pieces of myself I never got back. My vulnerability, my trust, my late-night thoughts, my softest emotions, they're still sitting there inside, those chats like frozen memories. That's why deleting conversations never felt possible to me, because deleting them feels like deleting proof that I once loved someone with my entire heart. I know people would tell me to let go. To stop revisiting old messages, to stop reopening wounds, but they don't understand. Sometimes old chats are the only place left where the love still feels alive. In real life, you're gone. But inside those conversations, you still call me baby, you still tell me you miss me, you still ask if I ate today, you still reassure me during my breakdowns, you still sound like someone who could never imagine leaving. And maybe that's unhealthy. Maybe it's dangerous to keep revisiting a version of someone who no longer exists. But grief makes people hold on to ghosts. Especially when those ghosts once made life feel beautiful. There's one message I found tonight that completely broke me. You told me, you don't have to hide your feelings from me. I stared at that sentence for so long. Because before you, I spent most of my life hiding how deeply I felt things. Pretending I was okay. Pretending I wasn't affected. Pretending loneliness didn't bother me. Then you came into my life and slowly taught me how to open up. And I did. I trusted you with parts of myself nobody else had ever seen. That's why heartbreak after real love feels different. It's not just rejection, it's exposure. It's knowing someone memorized your soul once, and still became a stranger later. I think about that a lot, how someone can know your favorite songs, your fears, your trauma, your insecurities, and still leave. That realization changes a person. After you, I became more careful, not colder. Just quieter, because when you lose someone who once felt like home, your heart starts treating emotional attachment like something dangerous. And maybe that's sad, because loving you also taught me beautiful things. You taught me that softness isn't weakness. You taught me that being emotionally expressive isn't embarrassing. You taught me how healing genuine affection can feel when it's given sincerely. I remember nights where your messages saved me from drowning in my own thoughts. You probably never even realized it, but sometimes a simple, "I'm here," from you carried me through entire breakdowns. That's why these chats hurt so much now. Every message feels alive, every memory still breathes. I found the voice note where you laughed after forgetting what you were trying to say. I replayed it 3 times tonight, just to hear your happiness again. Isn't that insane, how one person's voice can still affect your heartbeat months later? I hate how much emotional power Mary's memories still have over me. I hate that certain words still remind me of you, instantly. I hate that I still compare people to the comfort you gave me, naturally. But most of all, I hate that part of me still waits for you, not physically, not realistically, just emotionally. There's still a part of my heart that hasn't fully accepted that we became temporary, and maybe It's because our connection felt too real to end this quietly. I remember how we used to fall asleep during calls sometimes, neither of us wanting to say goodbye first. Just existing together in comfortable silence while life slowed down for a little while. Back then, I thought moments like that meant permanence. Now I realize even beautiful things can disappear. That truth ruined something inside me, because once you experience losing someone you genuinely thought would stay forever, you stop trusting certainty. Now every good thing feels fragile, every connection feels temporary, every "I'll never leave" sounds dangerous instead of comforting. And the worst part? You didn't just leave memories behind. You left habits. I still reach for my phone when something funny happens. I still instinctively want to tell you about my day. I still catch myself wondering what your reaction would be. To random moments in my life, loving someone daily rewires your existence. People don't talk enough about that. Relationships aren't just emotional, they become routine, rhythm, muscle memory, and when the person disappears, your body keeps searching for them long after your mind understands reality. That's why healing feels exhausting sometimes, because I'm not just trying to forget a person, I'm trying to rebuild an entire emotional routine without them. Tonight while reading our chats, I realized how much of my happiness back then was connected to you. Not because you were responsible for my happiness, but because love made ordinary life feel softer. Even stressful days felt manageable, when I knew I'd hear from you later. There's comfort in being emotionally chosen by someone. Real comfort, and losing that changes how the world feels afterward. I used to look at my phone and smile instantly when your name appeared. Now I look at my phone mostly out of habit. That difference hurts more than people realize. I think one of the cruelest things about heartbreak is how invisible it is. People see you functioning normally. Smiling sometimes. Posting things. Continuing life, but they don't see the private moments. The nights where memories attack out of nowhere. The moments where one old message completely destroys your emotional stability. The way loneliness feels heavier after you've experienced deep connection once. I never understood why people reread old chats before. Now I do, because sometimes memories are the closest thing left to touching someone again. I know that sounds dramatic. But heartbreak changes the ways you experience simple things. A typing bubble once had the power to calm my anxiety instantly. Now silence has the power to ruin entire nights. That's what losing you did to me. And maybe you moved on peacefully. Maybe these chats mean nothing to you now. Maybe I'm just another chapter you closed a long time ago. But, for me, these conversations still feel sacred. Not because I'm obsessed with the past, but because they contain proof of a version of love that genuinely changed me. You made me feel seen. That's rare, so rare. And people don't easily recover from losing someone who once understood them deeply. I found messages tonight where I was telling you things I've never told another soul, dreams I was embarrassed about, fears I tried to hide from everyone else. The darkest parts of my overthinking. And you listened. Not everybody listens with care. You did. That's why your absence became louder than I expected, because after experiencing emotional intimacy like that, surface-level conversations start feeling empty. I miss depth. I miss feeling emotionally connected instead of emotionally distracted. I miss the way you used to notice tiny changes in my mood before I even admitted something was wrong. You paid attention to me in ways nobody else ever did. And maybe that's why letting go feels impossible some nights, because people don't just miss love. They miss being understood. I think that's what broke me tonight more than anything else, not the romance, not the relationship itself, the realization that the person who once knew me best no longer exists in my life at all. That kind of grief is difficult to explain. It feels like losing both a lover and a best friend at the same time. I stared at our old photos for a while too. You looked so happy beside me, we both did, and it's terrifying realizing how quickly life can change. Two people can go from talking every hour to never speaking again. That thought genuinely scares me now, because if something that felt this real could disappear, what actually lasts forever? Maybe that's why I struggle to trust love now. Not because I think people are evil, but because I finally understand that feelings can change even when intentions were once pure. And, honestly, that realization made me emotionally tired. Sometimes I wish I could erase those memories completely. Not because they were bad, but because carrying them hurts. Then again, if I erased the memories, I'd also erase the happiest version of myself.